Happy 4th of July to all you in the U.S. and those of you in the U.K. Greetings from one of your ungrateful and rebellious colonists. Dang it. Now in this episode I'm going to wrap up the 3-video series on the Monterey E-Type, a car that I had helped to prepare in 2011 for the Monterey Motorsports Reunion, in which the featured marque that year was Jaguar, so there's going to be a lot of significant cars there. And also it celebrated the 50th anniversary of the initial production of the E-Type. One of the really significant cars in the history of the automobile. Even Enzo Ferrari thought that. For those of you who have missed the previous 2 episodes in this series, I've included links in the description down below. So let's get started. Well, tech inspection and practice having been done, the next significant event was to gather all the cars together under the Bridgestone Bridge between, I believe, turns 4 and 5 for the reunion picture, which is what you do at all reunions. The problem was that we found out that the assembly time for all the cars had been moved forward for whatever reason, about a half hour. And so what Eric Skoglund and I did is we jumped in the Jag, drove to the pit area, we were waved onto the track, and we turned left, which is what you do on a track that's running counterclockwise. And we made our way to the assembly area. Now the mistake we had made was this. Remember when we pulled onto the track and turned left? Well, as soon as we passed that guy who was waving us onto the track, we failed to see him frantically gesturing for us to go to the right, the opposite direction of normal travel on the track, up through the corkscrew, and then get in line to be positioned for the pictures. Having turned left, eventually we came up on the group of people that were engaged in the process of positioning some pretty significant cars for the picture. Which means, as we slowly drove through this assembly, we got the old stink eye from a number of very serious looking adult types who were busy positioning a few $1 million worth of really significant cars. So that was embarrassing. But you know, then something wonderful happened. So we finally got to the point where they had 2 lines of cars, E-types on the right and the other significant cars like D-types and Group 44 Trans Am cars and so forth on the left. And had we gone around the other way, we would have been at the end of the E-type line. But when we got to that line, they turned us right around. Now we're at the head of the line. And shortly after that, the guy gets on the bullhorn and says, E-types, go up to be positioned. We end up getting set up on the inside of the second row behind the Huffaker EV12, the Cunningham number 10, Le Mans Coupe, and the Group 44 EV12. We'll never make that mistake again.
When I had hair, I used to carry it on. My fingers aren't thin enough. See the way these 2 are oriented on the white line? Yeah, orient 61 the same way.
This was a really special time for me because there were so many cars in the assembly area that were significant, even cars that I had been familiar with as a child and as a young man, and just, thought that they were just the greatest thing ever. And here I was in the same location doing pretty much the same thing. I know that when you're in a situation like that, you're supposed to act like you belong there. But I got to say that there were a couple of times where I puzzled up a little bit. Now, you can't have a get-together like this and not have a few dignitaries that are associated with these cars in attendance. And one of them was one of my heroes as a young man, Bob Tullius. And if you read his story, it's pretty interesting. During the course of the week, he actually, during an interval between the races, took some of the Jaguar bigwigs around in, I don't know what the model of Jaguar was. It was a large sedan, but did a few circuits of the track with these people. And I tell you, he was really fast, and he got exactly the same number of broops out of the rumble strips every lap in the same spot. He was right on the nose every time. And I think he was 80 years old or so at that point, and pretty incredible. In fact, I got a chance to meet him. Now, when I say meet him, I got within 30 feet of him, but he was busy. Now, as great as all of this was, and it was pretty great, the best part of it was the fact that both of my children live in California, and they drove up to Monterey, and they were able to camp with me and go in the pits and be around as we were, getting the cars ready, and it was just a wonderful thing to be able to share this with them. From this point on, this is where the racing actually began, and unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of time to, get the cars ready and answer people's questions and so forth. But once the owner got in the car and it was started and ready to go on track, there wasn't a lot of time to get out and get in a position anywhere to actually take some pictures. But that was almost anticlimactic to what had gone on previously. But here's a little footage of getting the car ready to go out on track for the 2011 Monterey Motorsports E-Type Invitational. I was actually able to hustle around to one of the grandstands that were fairly close to the pit area and got a little bit of footage of the Invitational. And it started out with the owner being a little bit tentative because, to be honest, the car hadn't even been aligned properly. So in terms of actually setting it up, there really had been none. So as time went by, though, he got more and more confident, and he actually started to pass cars. And I tell you what, that was a big deal. It really was. Unfortunately, that's the only clip of the car on track that survived. It's been 11 years since that event. This stuff is scattered all over the place, and I just couldn't find any more. But the truth is that the rest of the footage on track was pretty much a repeat of the same. I really wanted to get some video of it coming down through the corkscrew, but just couldn't get up there on time, having left the pits as the car was heading out on track. So that's too bad, but you know, the point of this video is to not so much have something for content on my channel, but to have something that I can record that my kids and I can look back on and say that there was a time that we really did something together. It was pretty significant and was a lot of fun. Another point that I'd like to make is that I was in my basement a couple weeks ago, and my family has boxes and boxes of photographs, some of them going back to the latter part of the 1800s. And some of them I recognize, my grandparents and their family, but there were just dozens of people that I knew nothing about. And I guess my recommendation to you is that if you're doing anything that you think is significant, do something like this. You don't have to start up a channel necessarily like this, but you know, record who you are and get it out there so that years from now people aren't just looking at old gray photographs of you and wondering about you, if they ever even do. So I think it's important. Now, if you like this kind of video, like, subscribe, maybe leave some comments down below so that we can know what we can do we do better. And we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicles.